They say every secret eventually finds its way to the surface, even those guarded by the most powerful figures in Hollywood. For years, rumors have swirled around certain names and the wild, unspeakable parties that allegedly happen behind closed doors. From hush money deals to potential blackmail, these whispers always seemed too outrageous to be true. But as more lawsuits pile up and insiders speak out, it appears that some of the most talked about conspiracy theories might have a kernel of truth. One name comes up again and again in these unsettling stories: Sean Diddy Combs. And if you thought the accusations against him started and ended with one or two disgruntled ex-employees, think again, because this scandal reaches deep into the lives of other megastars like J-Lo, Jay-Z, and beyond. Yet, before we dive into the swirling allegations and the bizarre events they've allegedly kept hidden, let's take a moment to note that this is more than a series of sensational headlines. It's the saga of money, power, and what people are willing to do or ignore in pursuit of both. The claims are explosive: twisted freak-off gatherings, forced compliance from staff members, and even accusations involving unsuspecting bystanders who had no idea what they were walking into. Are these stories born from rumor, or do they reflect the darker corners of an industry that thrives on secrecy? Let's start with a voice that's been shouting about these backroom dealings long before the tabloids caught up: comedian Katt Williams. Katt Williams is best known for his brash, irreverent stand-up style, but he's also infamous for pulling back the curtain on what he calls Hollywood's unspoken handshake. Years ago, he shared anecdotes about the mansion parties that top-tier celebrities often attend, gatherings where the average person can only dream of being a fly on the wall. He mentioned rooms within rooms, invitations that lead to suspiciously private corners, and guests who are lured in by the promise of luxury but end up stumbling onto scenes that most folks would find downright disturbing. According to Katt, these mansion parties aren't just about rubbing elbows with the elite. They're about testing how far someone can go and how easily they might be controlled or manipulated. What makes Katt Williams' stories compelling is that he rarely tiptoes around naming names. Whenever he's pressed for specifics, he drops just enough breadcrumbs to leave people guessing. One time, he described how a casual wander through one of these mansions led to him catching a glimpse of two men in a situation he didn't anticipate. Something so shocking, it made him question his own safety if he stuck around. While he never outright pinned the blame on one individual, he insinuated that certain powerful moguls throw these exclusive gatherings as a way of roping people in. Get them comfortable, compromise them, then hold that secret for leverage. It's about power. In other words, not genuine pleasure or friendship. Many dismissed Katt Williams as simply stirring up controversy. Some claimed he was exaggerating for comedic effect. Yet the older his stories become, the more they align with fresh allegations that keep surfacing in lawsuits against influential music and entertainment figures, Diddy being chief among them. And here's the kicker: Katt Williams never took the hush money. He famously said he turned down $50 million 4 times. He's also praised people like Dave Chappelle for stepping away when they sensed something was off. That willingness to leave money on the table has become a hallmark for those who claim "it's not worth your soul," as Katt once put it. While Katt's outbursts have often been brushed aside, the lawsuits filed in recent months suggest there might be a basis to his claims of manipulated fun, clandestine recordings, and a labyrinth of hush tactics. These new revelations don't just touch on unsavory party scenes. They accuse powerful men of orchestrating entire operations to feed their need for control. And among these bombshell allegations is the detailed account of an executive assistant who says he saw everything firsthand and was forced to tidy up the mess. According to court documents, a former executive assistant of Diddy, known in the filing as one of his closest staffers, paints a harrowing picture of wild king nights or freak-offs, events where numerous participants were allegedly cajoled into fulfilling Diddy's every whim. The assistant, we'll call him Mr. X for simplicity, claims these weren't just casual get-togethers, but carefully orchestrated marathons lasting days. Everything, from the lighting in the room to the choice of recreational substances, was specifically laid out. Red lights, baby oil, power banger machines, and a carefully curated list of items like honey packs, erectile dysfunction medication, and even morning-after pills were standard kit. Worse yet, the assistant says his tasks went beyond the role of a mere helper. He was instructed, he claims, to actively participate by running out to procure whatever Diddy demanded, even in the middle of the night, and delivering it to secretive hotel rooms. Walking away after handing over the items was apparently not an option. He alleges that he was forced to see what was going on inside, like a silent spectator compelled to witness acts he never agreed to be a part of. If that wasn't bad enough, Mr. X also had to handle cleanup duty. Court papers detail how he was expected to gather up condoms, drugs, use towels, anything that could serve as incriminating evidence, and dispose of it. He was to do this swiftly, making sure no trace of the previous nights remained. In some cases, that meant paying housekeeping staff large tips so they wouldn't breathe a word about what they saw. The intention, he claims, was to wipe the slate clean after each event, ensuring that the next wave of guests and employees remained in the dark. One of the most startling parts of Mr. X's account revolves around digital scrubbing. Diddy, he says, recorded many of these sessions, either for self-gratification or as a form of leverage. But after a while, Mr. X was told to delete these recordings from personal devices. The assistant recounts how he had no choice but to watch some of these videos as he cleared them, exposing him yet again to scenes of non-consensual acts. If these allegations are even partly true, the psychological toll alone is staggering. When you consider the specifics, it almost feels like a script for a crime drama. Well-paid staff forced to be complicit in illegal activities, powerful men using intimidation or hush money to keep it all under wraps, and a network of employees all operating under unspoken rules. But the story doesn't end with one assistant's testimony. There are whispers that this kind of exploitation has been on the radar of federal investigators for a while. Certain suits, filed by plaintiffs who claim to have been coerced or assaulted, echo each other in disturbing detail. Federal authorities, if rumors are to be believed, may be piecing together a puzzle that spans years, if not decades. People familiar with how these investigations work note that the government doesn't file charges lightly, especially not against big-name celebrities who can afford top legal representation. Often, federal probes involve numerous key witnesses, each one providing corroborating information that solidifies a case. Whether Mr. X is part of a grand strategy to bring charges against Diddy and his network is still unclear. What is certain is that the public eye is now fixated on the possibility of more indictments, possibly roping in names we wouldn't expect. That's the real tension here. Diddy isn't the only one named in these allegations. Other lawsuits mention artists like Jay-Z, insinuating that entire legal teams might have been involved in witness tampering. Meanwhile, Jennifer Lopez, Diddy's ex from the late 90s, is also coming under scrutiny. Could she have known about the tapes or the freak-offs? Did she try to warn others? Or did she simply choose to stay silent to protect her own career? These are questions swirling around social media and in the court of public opinion. And they point to a much bigger phenomenon: the industry's reliance on non-disclosure agreements, hush money, and fear tactics to keep scandalous secrets safe. If we take a step back, we see a consistent theme of money and control. Time and again, you hear about artists like Katt Williams, Dave Chappelle, and others who claim they walked away from deals worth tens of millions because something felt off. Dave Chappelle famously recounted a story about baboons and salt, comparing large checks to lumps of salt that trap you in a cage of your own making. The moral? Sometimes letting go of that salt is the only way to preserve your freedom and avoid entrapment by industry bigwigs. The notion of a trap resonates deeply within these circles. It's said that once you attend certain parties, once you accept a certain check or sign a certain contract, you end up indebted to people who have dirt on you. And in the music world, where image is everything, being under someone's thumb can effectively end your career if you step out of line. Katt Williams alludes to this dynamic when he discusses how many stars never escape that cycle. It's as if the entire system is set up to ensure that power stays concentrated in a handful of very wealthy, very connected individuals. For some, it's easy to dismiss these warnings as conspiracy theories or comedic exaggerations. But the avalanche of lawsuits in recent years, especially those describing almost identical setups, big parties, controlled environments, forced compliance, makes it harder to turn a blind eye. It's also worth noting that not everyone in these allegations is said to be a willing participant. The line between victim and collaborator can be blurry when you introduce blackmail, intimidation, and substances that impair judgment. If even half of these claims stand up in court, it exposes a systematic approach to exploitation, one that might have been operating quietly for years. And that's where Jennifer Lopez, J-Lo to her fans, enters the scene. Back in 1999, she and Diddy were an iconic couple, photographed everywhere, blazing through the tabloids. According to newly filed legal documents, certain plaintiffs allege that J-Lo knew about or even participated in questionable activities that happened during this time. One particularly horrifying claim is that a man who was assaulted at a Detroit Holiday Inn in 1997 had the act recorded, and that J-Lo became aware of this tape while she was dating Diddy. The question is, if she did know, why didn't she say anything? Some fans argue that J-Lo might have been unaware of the severity of these alleged events. Others believe she was caught between a rock and a hard place, potentially under the same kind of pressure that so many industry insiders face, where losing your career seems more likely than taking down a powerful figure. Still, certain lawsuits name her specifically as someone who could testify about Diddy's pattern of behavior and the tapes that were allegedly kept. Whether she'll be compelled to speak or whether she'll distance herself entirely remains to be seen. Diddy's defenders point out that no hard evidence has been presented linking J-Lo to wrongdoing. They say her name is dragged in simply because she's high profile and was romantically linked to him at a pivotal time. But the lawsuits don't mince words, suggesting she stayed silent to protect both her relationship and her standing in a notoriously unforgiving industry. Regardless of the truth, the swirling rumors place her squarely under a microscope, as many wonder if more damaging details could emerge, details that might implicate her in a larger cover-up. While the spotlight has mostly landed on Diddy and J-Lo, Jay-Z's legal teams have been facing allegations of their own, involving bribery and intimidation. According to a separate set of court papers, some attorneys representing Jay-Z or his affiliates allegedly flashed fake badges and offered up to $10,000 to individuals in exchange for false testimony or dropping lawsuits. The claims sound straight out of a gangster movie. Shady agents claiming to work for the state, approaching ex-clients of a rival law firm, and pushing them to turn on their former attorneys. Tony Busby, a high-profile lawyer known for tackling big cases, has led the charge in filing suits that call out these alleged tactics. He asserts that Roc Nation, which Jay-Z founded, is funding these hush campaigns, hoping to snuff out damaging lawsuits and tip the legal scales. The scenario conjures images of hushed meetings in parking garages, thick manila envelopes full of cash, and whispered threats of, "You'd better keep quiet if you know what's good for you." Jay-Z himself isn't listed as a defendant in the main complaint, but the plaintiffs argue that Roc Nation is merely an extension of his personal empire. They suggest that Jay-Z, or people closely tied to him, might be orchestrating these behind-the-scenes moves. It's a narrative that might sound far-fetched if similar strategies weren't historically rumored in high-stakes Hollywood feuds. The difference now is the paper trail: texts, recorded phone calls, sworn affidavits from witnesses who claim they were approached by these alleged operatives. And if it's proven in court, it opens a can of worms about how far top-tier celebrities will go to protect their images and their fortunes. To be sure, Jay-Z's camp denies any wrongdoing. They argue that these accusations are baseless, conjured up by opportunists looking to score a quick payday or a fleeting moment in the press. Desperation is the word they often use. Yet the swirl of these allegations intersects with the bigger narrative, an elite circle determined to keep ugly truths locked behind non-disclosure agreements and intimidation, ensuring that the carefully crafted public images of these power players remain untarnished. Now, as we reach the conclusion of this labyrinth of accusations, lawsuits, and rumored federal probes, we're left with an unsettling truth. The entertainment industry, for all its glamour, may be deeply entangled in activities that are as exploitative as they are profitable. If you believe the testimonies of people like Mr. X, Katt Williams, and others, then it's not just a few private parties that are the problem. It's an entire system designed to ensnare performers, staffers, and even everyday folks who wander into the wrong room at the wrong time. But what does this mean for the industry going forward? Will the recent rash of lawsuits finally force the door open on these secret parties and potential abusers? Or will massive legal teams, hush money, and influence campaigns continue to bury the voices of those who claim they were wronged? The case against Diddy could be a watershed moment, especially if federal investigations confirm a pattern of orchestrated sexual exploitation, intimidation, and cover-ups. for now, the best we can do is watch how the courts respond and how other insiders come forward with their own experiences. As more alleged victims gain the courage to speak, the risk for Diddy and his powerful associates grows exponentially. And if Hollywood has shown us anything over the last few years, it's that once a critical mass of survivors steps up, the status quo can crack wide open. So here's the question. Is this just the tip of a colossal iceberg waiting to sink more careers? Or will it dissipate into the realm of rumor, swallowed by legal battles that never fully see the light of day? One thing is certain, the conversation is far from over. More suits could be filed at any moment, more revelations could drop, and more high-profile figures could find themselves under scrutiny. What do you think about these disturbing claims? Are we on the verge of unearthing one of the biggest scandals in entertainment history? Or is this nothing but a storm of sensational headlines? Let us know your thoughts. And remember, sometimes the truth really is stranger than fiction.